If you've been watching me for any amount of time, then you know I talk a lot about Xbox Game Pass. But believe it or not, there's actually a pretty big feature in Xbox Game Pass that I've never spoken about before, and that is Xbox Cloud Gaming. Love it or hate it, game streaming is definitely a thing, and it definitely seems like it's here to stay. Well, maybe except for Google Stadia, but I think we all knew that one wasn't gonna work out. But anyway, Xbox Cloud Gaming. What is it? How much does it cost? How do you use it? Is it worth the money? Is it any good? I'm gonna answer all of these questions and more starting right now. So first off, what is Xbox Cloud Gaming? Well, exactly like the name suggests, it's Xbox's version or Microsoft's version of game streaming through the cloud. That means you can use cloud technologies to play video games directly on your device without installing or downloading anything at all. You can use an iPhone, an Android phone, a tablet, your PC, your Xbox console. You can even use a MacBook Air. And I know I have a subscriber that's gonna be really happy about that one. Basically, if you have a smart device that has an approved web browser, you can access Xbox Cloud Gaming through the web browser and stream games directly to your device. Today, we're gonna try Xbox Cloud Gaming on multiple devices. We're gonna start off with a PC behind me. We're gonna work our way over to my iPhone. And finally, we're gonna finish up on my wife's tablet. And we're gonna talk about the pros and cons of each. I'm gonna talk about how to access Xbox Cloud Gaming on each device. Then I'm gonna talk about how to use a controller on each device. And then I'm gonna talk about the service and performance and overall give my final thoughts on the service. Okay, so in order to access Xbox Cloud Gaming, you have to be an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber. Once you sign up for that service, which is $14.99 per month, you can now access cloud gaming on multiple devices. If you're on a PC, download the Xbox or the Game Pass app, sign in with your Microsoft account, choose the Cloud Gaming tab, and now you can pick any game you want. Any game under this tab will allow you to start gaming almost immediately. No downloads, no installs, nothing of that nature. Simply pick the game you want and start playing. From there, if you're on a console, all you have to do is log into Xbox Game Pass and then find any game that has the cloud icon on it, and it's basically the same thing. Choose the game, hit play, and you're up and running. If you move over to mobile devices, it's a little bit different. Android is very similar to PC. You have to install the Game Pass app and sign in with your Microsoft account. From there, you find the cloud icon and then you're up and running. Pick any game you want and start playing. But if you're on iPhone or pretty much any other device for that matter, now you have to do just a little bit more work. So instead of using an Xbox app, you need to use an approved web browser. I'll have a list of those on the screen right now. So on an iPhone, for example, open up Safari and go to xbox.com/play. Sign in with your Microsoft account, and now you're good to go. Any game you see right there is now ready for Xbox Cloud Gaming. And it works the exact same way on any other tablet or even a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro. The only difference is that you may not always use Safari. You might use something like Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. Okay, so that's how you access Xbox Cloud Gaming, but what do you do for controls? Well, if you're on PC, of course you can use mouse and keyboard, but you can also use an Xbox controller. So for me, I use my Xbox Elite Series 2 controller, and I'm connected through the Xbox dongle, but Bluetooth and a USB cable will also work. If you're on an iPhone or an Android phone, some games actually have on-screen touch controls, but other than that, you can also use an Xbox controller by connecting it through Bluetooth in the phone's Bluetooth settings. And pretty much for any other device, it's basically the exact same thing. A laptop, a tablet, you can still connect an Xbox controller through USB, a dongle, Bluetooth, or if the device is a laptop, you can still use a mouse and keyboard. Okay, that's enough with all the boring how to do this details. Let's talk about the real stuff. Is Xbox Cloud Gaming any good? Is it worth the money? Is it worth your time? Well, that really depends on what you need. I'm kind of 50-50 on it personally, and here's why. So like I've said before, if you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know I talk a lot about Xbox Game Pass, and honestly, I think the service is great, and I think it offers a lot of value. And Xbox Cloud Gaming is really just another feature that's part of that core service. It's not something you're being charged anything extra for. It's not being sold separately. It's just kind of like the icing on the cake or a cherry on top. And so it's really kind of hard to complain about it when it's just being bundled in with all the other benefits. Now, with that being said, if you do decide to use Xbox Cloud Gaming, what can you expect? I started off on my PC, and on my PC, I have the best connection you can get, which is a hardwired Ethernet LAN connection, and honestly, it was definitely a playable experience for sure. I mean, I didn't really notice any lag or frame drops or stutter or anything like that at all. But I did notice one glaring issue, and that is the resolution. It makes sense, but in order to save on bandwidth, Xbox Cloud Gaming only offers these games to be streamed in 1080p. This is a 4K OLED TV. I have a whole video on it. I'll link it up if you want to check it out. But basically, when you're playing a game at 1080p on a 4K TV, you really start to notice all the blurry edges, and it's not sharp and it doesn't look great at all. So if you're gonna play games at home using Xbox Cloud Gaming, then I would recommend doing it on a smaller screen and preferably one that's meant for 1080p gaming. And one final thought I have about using Xbox Cloud Gaming on the PC is that if you're at home with a dedicated Ethernet connection on your PC, I don't really know why you would even use the service at all. You're probably gonna open up Steam and simply run a game locally on your native hardware. To me, that makes the most sense. There's no reason to introduce game streaming, which can bring along latency and all these other issues, when you can just play 99% of these games on Steam or even in the Game Pass library locally on your native hardware. Okay, so with that being said, this service is mostly meant for people that are on the go using a mobile device. So let's talk about that. So I took out my iPhone, I connected to my Wi-Fi at home, I signed into Xbox Game Pass, and I started playing games using Xbox Cloud Gaming. Well, right off the bat, I noticed that the image was no longer as blurry because my screen was so much smaller. 1080p looked totally fine on my iPhone. The other major change was the fact that I'm now on a Wi-Fi connection, so the experience was not as smooth as it was on the PC. I definitely noticed a lot more lag or frame drops or stuttering. I don't even really know how to classify it, but the simple version is that the experience was not as smooth on the phone over a Wi-Fi connection as it was on my PC using an Ethernet connection. That makes sense, and that's to be expected because Wi-Fi is not as consistent or as reliable as a dedicated connection, but still, if you're on the phone, that's pretty much what you're gonna get. But if you're on the go and you're really bored or you're just itching to play the game, it's definitely better than nothing. Lastly, I use my wife's Surface tablet and I'm not really sure what I expected here. Once again, I'm using a web browser and once again, I'm connected to Wi-Fi. So the experience was the exact same as it was on my iPhone. I tried out Halo Infinite's multiplayer and the latency was so bad, I could not get a kill and I couldn't keep up with what was going on. So I was forced to stop the match early. And then from there, I tried out Doom Eternal. And here's really where I noticed the biggest issue. There is a delay between the controller input and what you're seeing on the screen. And yes, this is amplified because all controllers naturally have a little bit of input lag. It's having to connect to the cloud and go to the server and tell the game, move the character left or right, and then come back and actually display that on your screen. I didn't notice this at all on my PC because I had a dedicated connection, and I didn't notice it on my iPhone because the screen was so small. But now that I'm playing on a tablet, it stood out a lot more. Overall, here's my final thoughts on the service and if it's worth it. If you had to pay for Xbox Cloud Gaming as a standalone service, I would not recommend it, like at all. Not unless you're like traveling all the time and you have no other way to play games and you're just dying to play a video game. Then maybe. But because the service is being offered as part of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is just an incredible value on its own, then yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's coming with the service and I recommend that service, and this is just another added benefit on top of it. Why not? If you don't like it, don't use it. If you do like it, or if you do need it, there you go, it's there for you. Now, with that being said, if you're on the go and you want to play a slower pace, maybe story-driven, single-player type of game like Fable or something like that, this service is really right up your alley. However, if you're a fast-paced, competitive, first-person shooter player, this service is not for you at all. And I think most people probably know that. Now, with all of that being said, I do think Xbox Cloud Gaming does have a place in this world. I do think there is some value there, and I think it has a lot of potential. As the technology gets better and better, we will see less lag, less latency, and games will start to feel just a little bit more fluid. I do think if you're playing any other type of game like Skyrim, for example, this service is more than viable, and it will definitely come in clutch if you're really itching to play your favorite game. But with all of that being said, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button because it goes a long way in helping helping me out. Let me know in the comments below, have you tried Xbox Cloud Gaming? Will you try it? What do you think of game streaming in general? What about Stadia? What about GeForce Now? I'm really curious about your thoughts. Let me know. And until next time, E-Rock out.